Hey there, and welcome to the Invest In podcast. I'm your host, Zac Hoyt, real estate investor, RV park developer, and your guide to turning adventures into cash flow. Every Thursday, we dive into the strategies, tools, and mindsets that help you invest smarter and live freer. If you enjoy the show, tap subscribe, rate us, and share it with a friend. Now, let's get into today's episode. This episode is brought to you by RVParkConsultant.com. They are your go-to experts for purchasing, funding, designing, launching, and growing RV resorts and campgrounds. With over 35 years of hands-on industry experience, they offer smart park layouts, creative financing solutions, and operational optimization strategies to help you save money and boost your profits. Ready to turn your land into a thriving hospitality destination? Visit RVParkConsultant.com. Link is in the description below. Right, all right. Welcome, everyone, to the RV Park Mastery. Hey there, Lizanne, Rebecca, Felipe. Love to see you guys. Rick, Rhonda, Kevin, great to have you guys here. Yeah, RV Park Mastery. So this is awesome, right? What we got a lot of feedback on from everyone is that, yes, we've got this meetup that's every month. We get to meet people and we've got someone that's talking about stuff and teaching us, but we just want to learn more and let's get our hands dirty. We want to do something where we can get our hands dirty and answer some real questions that people have, because we never have time for that in the meetup itself. So I hope all you guys that you're here, you've got some active deals. I'd love to tease those apart, see where your questions are with all of that. Hey there, Keith. Good to see you too. Awesome. Love meeting new faces. Yeah, Lizanne, I know you got a deal. So we want to pick some things apart and workshop them. In case you guys don't know, I am Zac Hoyt. I'm a real estate investor since 2012, CEO of Maverick Asher Capital Fund and Hidden Beach RV Resort, most technologically advanced RV destination in the world that we're developing in North Carolina. Also host of the Invest In podcast, which this will be aired on. So everyone will be able to see that there as a replay. We'll all be famous into forever. And a consultant at RVParkConsultant.com, helping people out. So if you need more help with consulting, check out RVParkConsulting.com. So awesome. Yeah. So this series, everyone, this is, I would have loved something like this and really structured this in a way to help all of you get from wherever you are to owning parks, enjoying them, and us all visiting each other and getting to hang out at the awesome thing that is RV parks and RV resorts, glamping and all that fun stuff that's in nature. Making money. Yeah, for sure. Right. So we did a poll in our Facebook group, RV Park Mastery, and I was kind of surprised at the response that came out of it. Everyone was very interested in funding the deal. How do we get the deal funded? I mean, and when I sat back and thought about it, I wasn't surprised as much. Gosh, that's always the biggest thing is we're going to take on a bigger asset like an RV park. It's bigger than a single family home. How do we fund that? Because if you've tried purchasing RV parks, you might know that typical lenders that are out there, commercial lenders, they might like single family homes or multifamily buildings. But if you ask them about an RV park, they might just say, sorry, no, we're not funding those. You're like, what? You've got all these millions, you'll fund anything, but you're not going to fund this. It's like, no. So it's a little bit of a niche product. So we really have to match it up with the right funding sources. And here's the thing that I always tell people from the beginning when I teach them anything about real estate is that you want to start at the end and work backwards from there. Because if you start at the beginning, that's great to get started in things like, oh, let's find a deal. Let's talk to someone about that. But you're eventually going to get to the point of, oh, shucks, where are the millions of dollars going to come from? Because my bank account doesn't have them. And I thought we could get into this with perhaps no money and no credit, which is how I got into real estate. No money, no credit, and no experience. So you certainly can do all those things because if you think those are a problem, they will become a problem. But if you solve them, like coming to this and listening to what we can do for you, all of those are just challenges that you need a solution for. So we have solutions for all of your problems and all of your challenges that are out there. So real excited about that. So that's the idea, is that this one, we're going to start at funding the deal, different things in the capital stack of how to get all the money that you need for that. And then we're going to go through all the other topics, right, that we have put in the poll. And we're going to pretty much go through them in order, from just how to find a deal, how to analyze things quickly, triage them, to put out LOIs, to analyze more, to put out offers, to then go through due diligence, to go through everything until you're actually closing it, and then you're operating the park, optimizing it, marketing it, and heaven forbid you want to do a development like we are, we'll teach you through that as well. Right? We'll give you all the shortcuts through the headache to make your life easier on that, because development is slow, but there's a lot of benefits to that. And if you want to know some more of the trade-offs between acquiring now versus developing, check out our Invest In podcast, where I don't know which episode that was. I think it was the number 10 even, but when we talked about why we chose the route that we chose, which is basically an and. Like, let's develop and then go buy some, but developing takes forever. Okay, let's get back into this. So again, get your deals ready. If you've got something, I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of different ways of funding an RV park, but it's going to be fairly brief because I want it to be more in context of a live deal, a problem that you guys are facing, so that we can use that as a case study and just pick up from there, because it's a lot more real when we can just go through all of that. So if you guys attended one of our last meetups, we had a broker lender that was on there. He went through some of those different sources of things. And I'm sure you guys all know that banks can fund all of this. And if you have any questions, by the way, here, I'm going to find my chat. Yeah. Awesome. So everyone's helping out in the chat. Shoot some questions in the chat if you want. Raise your hand. That's probably the easiest way to move forward on stuff with questions. But feel free to interrupt me, because I want to be interrupted on this one. So that's totally okay. Questions and answers are encouraged a lot. So, but yeah, if you were with us at that meetup, he was going through different sources of things. Obviously, one place that we can go and get funding from are banks. Banks have always been a 4-letter word to me, bad word that we don't say, just because they're so nosy. They want all the details. And a lot of times they're not quick to give you a no. They're just wanting all that information and information and information. You might find out months later that it's a no from all of that. So if you're looking to move fast, banks, conventional lending, USDA loans like that, they are not fast at all. They're slow, and they don't like risk. So the reason we would use them, though, is that we can get a long-term at a nice low fixed rate, if that's what our exit strategy is for that. So let me back up one second. Figure out what your exit strategy is. Again, start at the end. What are you going to do? Are you going to own this park forever? All right, you want to own it forever, or do you want to sell it right after you do whatever to it? Back up a little bit. You're going to buy it. Are you going to renovate it? Are you going to make it better, a value add? Or is this going to be more of a, like, it's already working, it's a great park, it's got systems and operators, people in place, managers, it's all good, and I'm just going to buy that? That could be a strategy too. But if you're looking to do a value add and you want to sell it, that's one thing. If you want to do a value add and you want to own it in the end, well, you better plan on owning it. And so I'm going to say it's a different type of funding that's going to happen at the end for owning all of that than it's probably going to happen in the beginning of everything if you're doing that value add. And then if we back up even more, maybe you don't even want to ever own it. Maybe you're just going to bird dog it, wholesale it to someone. That's great. Bird dog us some RV parks. Anyone else that's in this, bird dog them. Work with someone on it and just get your feet wet so that you can start to get that taste of all of this. Because once you get that taste, I think you'll really like it. And just figure out whatever niche you are in of that process. I started out back in 2012 when I was doing everything in real estate as a wholesaler, because I didn't have money. I had to figure things out. Eventually got into fix and flipping. Eventually figured out that that's silly. I want to own it, and I can get free money when I refinance it too. So got into that. And then you can sell off assets when it's the right time to do so. But your journey is probably going to change over time. Just figure out where you are now, because that's going to be one of the things I'm going to ask you is, what's your end game? Because I want to know where you're going so that I can drive you in the right direction with everything. But yeah, banks, conventional lending, USDA, those are great products for the end. And I'm going to even add to that regional credit unions. Those are amazing for financing when you already have a park that is all up and running. It's good to go, low risk at that point. So you've got a nice T12 that shows everyone loves coming to your park. You make lots of money. You show all the money in the year prior to that so that the bank's like, oh, yeah, you make lots of money. And there's a difference between getting ready for financing and general operations, because general operations, you might want to limit the amount of taxes that you pay. So you might do things to erode everything on your books. And we can talk about that in a different time with our CFO that could come in and help with that. But when you're going for financing with a bank, you want it to look beautiful. You want it to make lots of money, have as few expenses as possible, as little variables as possible, because banks don't like risk. So if you're trying to buy an asset that is underperforming, isn't maintained well, whatever it needs to have some value add in the beginning, which is what a lot of us like to buy. We want something that has some opportunity for that. Banks are not going to be your friends at all for so many reasons. So just avoid them completely, unless, again, you're buying something that's completely turnkey at that point. So other things that, Lizanne, is it easier to use a local bank that does not sell their loan? Yeah. So that's where I would say a regional bank, regional credit union, something like that, where they're invested in the community. At the end of all of this, when you have an RV park that's great and you've got that wonderful T12 to show them you've operated it for enough time, they say there's no risk. Yeah, they want that completely, and they want to invest in the community, because RV parks are businesses. They're bringing people into an area, they're employing people. There's lots of stuff that's going on besides just the actual rentals of it. They want to be a part of it. So they're really good for the end or the beginning if it's completely turnkey and you look wonderful on paper and have time to go through that process. Does that all make sense? But yeah, definitely those credit unions, awesome. Absolutely awesome. Go and speak to a human. They'll work with you. And that's great. Now, the next ones that I want to talk about, you guys, I'm sure, have heard these words SBA before, right? These SBA loans. And there's some things that have helped the SBA process get even better under this last administration, making funds more available for everyone. And SBAs fund businesses. They're the Small Business Association. They fund businesses. This is a great business, and they're really good for entering into acquisitions. They're good for that. And just so you know, there are two SBA products. So when someone says SBA, not all things are meant the same. And yeah, Lizanne mentions out, all right, she says, I meant a local bank for an SBA. So here's another wrinkle that I'm going to give you. Lots of different people can do SBA loans, can help originate those SBA loans. And SBA loans happen through a bank. But if you're going to the wrong place, they can tell you that it's going to take like 60 to 90 days. Some of them will take 6 months to complete. And those are the places, the banks that don't actually make the decisions themselves. So in preparation for this masterclass today, I have talked to 20 different brokers and lenders of various different sizes and pitching them the same deal to all of them. So I'll tell you that it's 20 different responses that I got of what they can do. So it's literally crazy. It is crazy out there. So that's why I want to weed through some of that to give you some clarity. And that's why good case studies of you guys bringing projects would really help that. Yeah, so the SBA, there's an SBA 7A. That's the program I'm sure a lot of you always hear about. SBA 7A. What that is you can put anywhere from 10% down to 30, 40% down. It kind of depends on your expertise and the deal that's going on. But they can give you money for value add. And there's only a 3-year payment penalty. The interest rates are fairly nominal. You know, they're not ridiculous. They're more on the lower end of things. And I would say far away from hard money or anything like that. And they have a 3-year prepayment penalty. So that means that you can get in and out of them in 3 years and you're good to go. They do have a $5 million cap to them. So if you need more than $5 million, this will not work for you. So that's one little caveat. And I know that I mentioned that it could be as little as 10% down. They usually like to squeak as much out of you as possible. And now, if you look great on paper, And they are going to look at your paper. They're going to look at your bank statements. They're going to look at your tax returns. They're going to look at your experience specifically in this area, your team. They're going to look at your liquidity. They're going to look at your business plan. They're going to look at all these things. Because remember, they go through a bank at the end of the day. So it's kind of a 4-letter word. I know SBA is 3 letters. It's closer to what I like, but man, it's not my favorite because they have a lot of scrutiny. So if you have some things on your background that are preventing you, you either need to get someone to fix that. You either fix it yourself or get someone to fix that, meaning get a partner that has those things all solved. Maybe someone that has good credit, someone that has great liquidity, someone that has great experience in all of that, and they can be your sponsor in that. That helps solve it. That's the easy solution. That's the easy solution answer to everything. When you say you mean the RV parks. Yeah, our RV parks.
They're going to look at your bank statements. They're going to look at your taxes and all that stuff. They're not looking at your personal stuff. They're looking
at your personal stuff. Yeah. Yeah, they're going to be looking at your personal stuff for that. They want to make sure that you are a good investment as well as the RV park. It's going to be both. Yeah. So they're looking at you with some scrutiny. All right. And then I guess there's this other product that's this SBA 504. That's more of a 7 and 10 year prepayment penalties. You better want to own it for a long time, but they can handle something that's higher than $5 million. So that's a way that something big could be handled from that. But, these are typically meant for something that needs some value add to it. That has a different type of financing strategy on the back end. You could sit in these products all day long, but some of them, like I was just talking to this SBA banker, you get a variable amortization with the SBA product. So it's a variable rate mortgage, which right now could be good because in the next 3 years, the interest rates are probably going to go down a little bit, but if you catch it at the wrong time, things could go up. I was never one, if I'm going to own something for a long time, I'm not going to own it with a variable rate mortgage. I'm going to sit at a fixed rate so that I can sleep at night, so I don't have to worry about anything happening. I can buy it at the right time, refinance it right, and then it's just boom, it is done. So this is more of a temporary product. It is a good product for the beginning if you've got everyone on your team is looking good to solve the problems of what everyone needs. Now, next one, I think a lot of you guys might be real familiar with, even though you either really are or you really aren't, but DSCR lenders. If you know what DSCR, debt service coverage ratio, these are people that don't look at your taxes. They don't ask. They don't care. I love these people. I love them. When I had terrible credit and I didn't know what the heck was going on, I'm like, I don't want anyone looking at anything over there. That's not great. Just, get things going real fast. And now these DSCR lenders, right now, they have no appraisal closing. They can close in as little as a week for a single family home and not an RV park. But it's the same thing where they're going to look at what's the T12, what is this park generating, and can it generate money to cover the debt. That's why it's called a debt service coverage ratio lender, DSCR lender. They want to make sure that it makes enough money to cover everything. So if it isn't a great park, underperforming, these ones are more difficult. You're not going to get as much money for them because they have to show that those things are there. So while they can be fast, they're not necessarily solving all the problems of when there is a sticky situation, which is what a lot of the times we tend to buy. Again, we want that value add that's in there. Some of these DSCR lenders will lend on the ARV of the RV park, right? What it's going to be worth with your CapEx plan, your value add plan. Some of them will not. They will just lend on the back T12 of the books and the cash flow from things. So I want you to know that because not all DSCR lenders are the same. So there's some DSCR lenders that will not lend on RV parks, just like other lenders out there. So you got to ask these questions depending on your specific situation that you're looking to solve. Fun thing about all of this is that the DSCR lenders, they can also help with this next one that I'm going to talk about, which I'm sure a lot of you guys love, is the creative financing side of it, right? Let's make it easy. Let's do something like just have the seller do a seller carryback and give us some money. So that we don't need to do that the whole time. They can give us that money in the beginning. In fact, we negotiated something with a 70% seller carryback. It's wonderful, right? And so we can include that in our capital stack however is needed. And we can even renegotiate and adjust things with him on that. But seller carrybacks are wonderful. I always like to ask for those, find ways of making those work, because you can negotiate these rates, you can negotiate those terms. It's really wild, wild west. Whatever works for everyone involved, you can make happen. But yeah, even taking over some of the existing liens, whether they're tax liens or it's the existing mortgage, you can always take things over subject to. That's another option, the existing mortgage that's there. But usually it's like, all right, there's always a gap. There's a gap that comes into play. Whether it's the SBA and you're like, all right, I need to put 10 to 30 to 40% down, or it's this DSCR lender that maybe they want 30% down to show, or you're taking it over subject to, but the seller wants more money than that, or the seller is willing to seller finance a portion of it. Like, what happens for the down payment? How do you get that type of money? There's tons of different ways. Private equity, partnerships, family and friends. That's one that you can use. You can come all together on one project as a syndication. You might have heard that syndication, or either a joint venture. That's if there's one project. You can carve out like who is the GP, who is the LP on all of that. There's ways that we have a co-GP for if you're doing a fund like we have going on, 5C, where you can advertise, a 506B, where you have to be friends and family. So you can raise capital for that. There's so many solutions for that. You can, instead of doing that, you can even do an equity participation loan. If you guys have never heard of that, it's literally like just making a loan and saying there's going to be multiple people that are on this loan. They're all participating in it, and it's part of the equity of all of that. So lots of fancy words, lots of different paperwork for it. But like, what really matters right now? I'm going to tell you that the trends for 2025 now, people in the commercial lending space are hurting. The lenders are hurting. They got burnt from everything with those silly multifamily people that were buying things way overpriced when they thought interest rates were great, and they had floating rate debt on all of it because they thought they were going to get in and get out on this. And these banks are left with non-performing loans. And so they're much more gun shy to move forward because of that. So what does that mean? That means they want more skin in the game. They want to see risk so that you're not as likely to walk away. That said, that's a reason why I like to stay away from banks, right? And so we use banks for the end when there's less risk, right? We need someone fast, like these DSCR lenders, hard money lenders, anything like that in the front end, because it's easier, it's fast. Seller financing, love those. And so that's what we want to do. And so you have to solve that equation of skin in the game. And so there's lots of ways of solving that equation right now, but it's mostly you got to get some type of private lenders involved. Some money from somewhere helps you out so tremendously that's going to be kind of your number one thing. I'm going to tell you, you want to start talking to people about that now. Like, you just always want to say, hey, are you interested? Or even, I know you might not be interested. This might not be for you, but who do you know that could be interested and wants to invest in an RV park with us? RV park, I don't know. Or maybe real estate investing, right? Some people might not even know about RV parks, but just talk to people about money. Start gauging their reaction to that. Doing that earlier than later is always going to be better, because you're going to need this at some point, right? But doing it at all is better than not doing it at all. So we'll say that. But yeah, so talking to people about money, that's huge. And there's going to be that risk. There's going to be that mix in the capital stack. The capital stack, whenever I say that, by the way, it's that mix of all those different things that make up what it makes for 100% of the financing. So part of the capital stack might be a DSCR lender that gives you 70%. Another part might be the seller finance aspect. Another part might be a private equity. So it might be 70%, 15%, 15%. There's your whole 100% capital stack. So that's what I mean when I'm going to talk about capital stacks. We need to solve that completely so that you're not, ideally, taking any. I prefer not using any of my own money in deals if I can avoid it. That way it allows us to buy as many assets as we want. But again, you do whatever you got to do. If you're your superpower is that you've got lots of money and great credit and all the time in the world to own, operate, and manage these RV parks, go for it. Put your own money in it. That's perfectly fine. If you don't have the time, I would say invest with one of us so that you can enjoy your life and be a passive investor in all of this and help us out. And we'll do all the grunt work and the day-to-day to get everything going so that you can get your wonderful returns. Because RV parks are booming right now. Holy smokes. Okay, so cool. So that's the general overview of the various different ways we can do this. Now we can mix and match these things together so that we can try and get our capital stack up to 100% as much as possible. But that's where it really helps to have any specific case studies of things. So I don't know, is there anyone here that wants to ring up their deal so I can help you out? Maybe you either already know what you're going to do for funding for things, or maybe you don't know, or maybe you don't have a deal and you just want to talk about how you would feel comfortable getting funded so then you feel confident to go out and get a deal. Keith, all right, man.
How you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm tired. It's hot out.
Where are you out of? You're out of Texas?
Out of Houston. Yeah. I've actually been up on the roof cutting down tree limbs of a house that I just picked up.
Love that.
But that has nothing to do with the RV park. All right. So
well, it does, because whatever you're doing now is obviously getting you to where you're going, right?
Yep, that's true. So there's a place, Redfish RV Park, at Crystal Beach, which is you go down to Galveston and you take ferry over to Bolivar Peninsula, and there's a beach along there that you can drive on, and it's super flat, and tons of people go out there. There's an RV park there. It's 24 pads, and it has mostly monthly people for park-owned RVs that they're doing as Airbnbs. Somebody posted on Facebook, and I've been talking to somebody about it. It looks like it's come down to about $640 now. My offer that I planned on making, and it sounded like it was generally acceptable, was $300 to the seller, and then the seller doing a seller carry, full standby, something like that second. But we haven't gone through the details of the seller carry yet, so I don't know that that's going to be fully agreeable by them, but that's my hopeful approach. So I talked to the lender just now that is currently holding the note on it and had some good discussion. But I guess like everything that you said so far has been educational, and Lisanne has been helping me wrangle some other contacts, which has been great. Greatly appreciate that. And yeah, is this a normal kind of scenario? It sounds like it is, but is there a particular type of loan or a type of lender that would lend itself well to that kind of scenario?
Yeah.
A local bank said that they were tapped out on RV park loans, and which kind of surprised me, but it is what it is. And they said that they don't allow seconds on them. That would kind of throw that seller carry portion out the window. But the lender that's holding it happens to be a hard money lender, and it seemed like that was something that was not abnormal to them.
For the hard money lender to have a second position. Yeah. A seller carry back.
Yeah. For them to allow a second position on it.
Yeah. To allow. Yeah. Not to have. I apologize. Yeah. To allow a second position. Yeah. Okay. Well, so let me back up and let's say, what's your end game that you're looking to do with this RV park, ideally?
I want to own it, test management, remote management strategies like you and I had talked about, and yeah, and acquire more small parks in the area.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So yeah. And if I recall from our conversation, essentially you look good on paper, right?
I look good aside from the income right now. My prior income was good, but generally on paper, I look good. I've got plenty sitting around and a good score.
Now, wait a second. You said something that I'm going to key in on, if you don't mind. You said your prior income was good, but now it's not good.
Yeah. I was liberated from my W-2 job about a year ago, and I'm desperately avoiding going back to any job.
Okay. So what you're saying right there is a perfect example of a situation that people are in. Because yeah, when you're liberated from all of that, the day you're liberated, banks hate you. They hate you. They're like, whoa. You're not getting that nice, consistent paycheck anymore. That's like not the time to go and get alone. You think like, hey, I've got all the time in the world to put into this now. They don't like that at all. So then they're going to require things like 2 years. If you're going to be an independent contractor, an entrepreneur, you need 2 years of your tax returns in order to make them feel cozy. And so, yeah, they instantly don't like you for that. So I'm going to say, don't try to make friends with banks right now. And to your point, like you were trying to ask them about RV parks and they're saying, oh, we're not hungry for those anymore. That's strange since there's like lots of money. So either there's something that's behind that, right? But you don't need
So
to.
they were tapped out on it, on
Yeah,
that asset class is what they said. They
right.
said
That
they
means
had a bunch of
they're not really a great one for you in general. And so I would say, yeah, banks, credit unions, again, we'll use them on the back end of things. So then my next question, knowing that you want to buy it and hold it, does this 24 pad RV park with Airbnbs, is this operating well right now or?
Okay, it's managed by the owner, of course, because it's a small park. Yeah, it's running okay. It's mostly monthly people, but that also means it's consistent. You know, people have been there 6 months, 9 months.
Yeah. Do you have any idea
Rel-
offhand what that NOI is? Offhand, you don't have to.
I think their gross was 90 or 100 something and 26 in expenses.
The gross was 90K and they had 60K in expenses.
No, 26 in expenses.
26 in expenses. So they really don't have any employees.
No, it's self-managed,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is actually what I was going after.
Yeah. Right. But then you want to remotely manage all of this. So yeah, I mean, there's ways to do all those things, of course. But okay, so you're looking at like a 64K NOI. All right. Okay. And it's down to like 640,000. That's magically hitting our 10 cap number. I mean, so yeah. So they're right there. So that's the right cap.
Well, and they just added, I think it was eight more pads, and so they're up to 24 pads now. So they were expecting, I think it was 120 something for this year.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so there were 16, now there's 24 pads. Got it. So they've done some things to this. All right. So that's cool. So yeah, I'm going to tell you that, I mean, where's the opportunity to add value in this? Where do you see that
So
offhand?
the remote management of it won't be immediate, but I think gradually rolling into that so that there's minimal effort necessary to administer the park or to manage the park. And additionally, there's a pond on the park that could be filled in without any permitting or partially filled in, and additional spots added there. They really haven't done any advertising. They're not present really on most of the normal places, Centennial Mall stays, stuff like that. There's no real presence. And so just marketing a little bit better, making them more visible, I would say is the primary thing.
Okay. All right. Making them more visible. So yeah. And one of the things I'm listening for is if you're saying anything like that requires CapEx. So if you need extra monies to do things, and aside from maybe filling in that pond some, I'm not really hearing that. So maybe that's even a future play that you do with things.
Yeah, that would be a future thing, not an immediate thing. I mean, they
Yeah.
just added several more spots, so I would think you just sit on the increased income for a little bit and then gradually work on the pond and the spots.
Yeah, that seems possible. Rick, you want to add something?
Yeah, I know that area. They really do well with golf cart rentals. So that may be something you want to add to the park.
Yeah, and it's like just down the street from the beach, and you can drive on the beach. So golf cart rentals would be super ideal there. And there's space in that park to put like a little area for that.
Okay. Well, cool. So yeah. So there's probably things that, I mean, it definitely sounds like there's advertising, things you can do with pricing, just SOPs, handling the remote management, maybe selling more things at this site that's not happening right now. Yeah. Off-road golf carts. And I like those off-road segways. You guys ever ride one of those things? Really fun. I mean, just bopping around feeling. It's just neat, right? They're just
Their
fun to
rent
play
is
with.
also slightly under market.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that can make sense because if it's someone operating it themselves, they just want to make it as easy as possible. Okay. So a lot of these aren't heavy lifting things. You're going to need some capital for, golf carts if you're going to rent them out and stuff, but those don't cost so much compared to everything else. And how many do you need if you've got 24 pads?
Yeah. So they also have the 4 park-owned RVs that will be going with it and that they're using as Airbnbs. I also have several RVs of my own that I would put there for additional Airbnb-able units.
Yeah.
And there was something else. I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds fine. So what I'm going to recommend for you in your situation, just as a general funding
I live across
solution.
the ferry from it. That's the other
Okay,
thing.
so
I live very close to it.
you can almost see it cross the ferry.
Yeah.
So yeah, for your situation, considering that, you just got out of your W-10, you don't really want banks to look at all these things very closely. I'm going to say that doing something like a DSCR or another hard money lender is going to be your best way to go because a lot of them, I'm not going to say a lot of it's hard because it's hard to say a lot or all of them or anything because all these lenders are just different. But just know that there are DSCR lenders that will allow seller carries as a second on there. And there's hard money lenders that will allow it. There's equally both of those that won't allow it. So that's one of the things is just ask because we don't want to get anyone in any type of fraud situation. There's people that do things that are, I'm going to say, shadier than I would ever do. And some would just say fraud is what you're doing is you're not disclosing. There's a lot of things that you sign when you sign these loans to these DSCR lenders. And if it says one thing and you're doing that thing, then it's fraud. So you got to watch out for that. So just be upfront with your broker. That's why having great relationships with brokers are great. Like I just tell my broker, hey, this is what I got going on. How do we make this happen when we've got this all happen here on the front end? What are my options with things? And so essentially, it'd be pretty easy for you to come up with a 10% out of pocket acquisition for this whole thing is what I'm going to tell you. And so if it's a seller acquisition, 64 grand to have that liquid is what I would imagine I could get you funded on. Perhaps even less on for some of this, but I mean, 10%, I've seen that when I'm talking to all these brokers on that.
So is that what they would want as a down payment, or is that what they would want just sitting out there in the ether available liquid in case?
Yeah, ether out there in all of that. They're going to want to, they're going to want that in the deal. So even though we might negotiate that the seller carry is, you mentioned a $300,000 loan, 300,000 to the seller, 340 seller carry, it might just get adjusted at the end of the day. That's a possibility that it might get adjusted.
Adjusted, what do you mean?
What was that?
By adjusted, what do you mean?
Meaning that, all right, there is
Explain like I'm a 5-year-old.
Yeah. Okay. So $300,000 to the seller, $340,000 seller carry. So something's going to get adjusted potentially, and it's either going to be the loan or the seller carry. But, of that $300,000 to the seller, if the hard money lender or DSCR lender says, hey, I want you to have 10% skin in the game, that's $64,000. And on one of these next master classes I do, I'm going to get my iPad so I can start drawing numbers and you guys can see it because I'm a kinesthetic type of drawer in general, being an architect. So 64 grand, they want to see 10%. That's going to come out of that $300,000 to the seller. So subtract 64 from the 300 and you're at $236,000. That's going to be the bank loan or I call it a bank loan. I don't know why I do that. It's going to be the commercial loan, right? That's going to be the first position debt, but the commercial loan from whoever, either the hard money lender, the DSCR lender, $236,000 commercial loan. And then we add the $340,000 from the seller carry and your $64,000 from personal. And then that's how you end up getting your $640,000. Does that make sense? So the commercial lender will say, sure. You mean we get to get first lien position on this asset that's worth $640,000. The person who's operating it has 64 grand into the deal. There's a seller carry in a junior position for $340,000. So we control a $640,000 asset with $236,000. I don't know what that loan to everything is, loan to value, but that's amazing. 36 divided by 640, at 30, we'll round it up, 37% loan to value. They're feeling safe, and they're going to charge you a high interest rate for it, a decently high interest rate for it, right? So they're feeling good at that point. That's fine. Now, there's a few other different things that you could do, because I look at that like, all right, that's great. 90% is fun. But what if we could get that $64,000 funded by somebody else? Because you might also want whatever money you have, you might want to put that into things like the golf carts and to marketing and all those like upfront getting started type of expenses. Few options that you could do for that. You can just go and get another loan for things. A loan would be a personal loan from someone. So you can say, hey, friend, hey, family member, hey, person that I know, how about I give you 10%, 5%, 12% per year for this type of $64,000. I'll pay you back. Maybe it's not even a year. Maybe you want to pay him back shorter. But like, again, it's kind of wild, wild west. You could get that going with all of that.
That was going to be a question of mine. Like, can I use a PML for that, for example? Because I've got a PML that I would love to use, and it would be great to use her for this, but I don't know if that's normal and acceptable.
So normal, forget normal. Get rid of the word normal. I love creative finance and I love everything not normal, quite frankly. Normal is boring. We're not going to do normal until maybe we talk about the end game. And so for you, whatever we do on this beginning, it's not going to be normal. At the end of everything, we're going to move at about year 3. You know, you've got things all updated and operating well. Then you can move towards normal, a nice bank or a credit union or something on the back end, because also you'll have that documented income for yourself in your tax statement so that they're going to like you again. The banks will like you again. So yeah, but as far as a private money lender that you have already lined up, the thing I would ask you is that in your conversations with that private money lender, it might have been about a fix and flip or something, just general lending of money. And the biggest hangup is going to be, what lien position did they want when you're having your conversations with that private money lender? Because a lot of times private money lenders, any hard money lenders or anything, they want to get that first lien position. And I'm telling you that someone's already standing on that podium in first lien position. And depending on how you negotiate with your seller for the junior lien, if I was the seller, I would want to be high up in that podium too, right? They want to be. Yeah. Third place is last place in this scenario. So that's not great. So it's just, but if you have that conversation with that private money lender, there's a few ways that you can solve that. All right, they might want to be a junior lien. There's people that take junior liens that are out there. It's just a higher interest rate. What type of security do they want on it? You know, are you allowed to put them in on this property? Are you allowed to record another lien on it? Again, it's going to be talking to that first commercial lender about that. But then the other thing is you could always collateralize anything else that you have, 64 grand. Maybe you have another property somewhere that, heaven forbid, you've got a wonderful situation where it's free and clear, and you could give a first lien position on that other property for that 64 grand. That's an easy way that you could then get things going with yourself. Another thing is even a HELOC. Shucks. I mean, I always don't like using my own money for things, but a HELOC is not really your own money. It's your own liquidity that you're doing on that. And that's kind of where we're talking about now, is collateralizing one of your other assets. But it is, it's a possibility out there, and it's cheaper money, I'm going to say, than anything else. And it turns into cash. So it would completely be allowed under this scenario that we're talking about. Again, to minimize the amount of money that has to be in your bank account right now.
So
Another one even is that you could get an equity partner. Say, hey, I'm going to give you a certain amount of interest of equity in this endeavor, this RV park, for that $64,000. And if you're doing that, you might as well ask for a little bit more money so that you have some CapEx things to spend, working capital when you're operating everything. So I like to give people tons of different options, because then if you start to see, don't ask, can I or can't I do this? Ask, how many ways can I accomplish this? And you start to see this list of all those ways, and you're like, oh, your brain naturally is just like, I'm getting goosebumps right now. Like, it's so much easier because you've got so many possibilities. Like, all right, option A doesn't work. That's great. I've got 5 more lines that Zac told me on this paper that I can go after. Right? You might not know how to do all of those offhand. You might not have done them yet either. But again, here we are. We'll help you through those steps on it. It's not rocket science. It's just literally like having someone to hold your hand the first time around makes things so much easier. My little boy going up and down the stairs couldn't do it. Every morning he likes to hold my hand. The first morning he was coming down by himself on the handrail. I'm like, you're doing this all by yourself? It's amazing. I didn't think he could ever do it that quickly, right? But he felt so proud. I felt super freaking proud. And it just happens overnight. And so it's just the first time, get someone to hold your hand. It's so much easier. The who, not how type of mentality. It's like, okay, cool. I'll learn how at the same time as I've got this who along with me to get it done. But yeah,
Cool.
What question did you have?
So it was going to be about having the seller carry a little bit more, increasing the purchase price and using a PML to get into it, and then having the seller carry to credit you some back on the back end to pay the PML back.
Yeah.
But I don't
There
know
you
if
go. What? You don't know what?
I don't. Does that work? Is it? I
Yes.
know something similar has been mentioned in like Morby method kind of stuff, but that kind of made my head swirl.
Yeah, well, yeah. And that, so it does. And so, yeah, the Morby method, people outside of sub 2 land might call it the stack method. You'll see that that's out there. But yeah, it's entirely possible with the right deal and the right lender then and seller financing that you could get money back from closing. You might still have to show that there's money that's in all of this. So you're like, oh, I've got to show 64 grand.
And that's
But I'm
fine.
going to tell you that there's a solution for that too. Like you said, that's fine. So for all the people that maybe that's not fine, or let's add a 0 onto that and make it 640 grand they have to show. Now, does that make more of a problem? All I'm going to say is that there's a solution for that too. We have these transactional funders that are out there that can show the money so that the lender can see the source of it. They can source the funds of all of that. So they can show that fund. They can put that and have that show up right at the closing, right at the right times. They just sits there for a day. If that, it'll be a day. But they get it back and they get paid usually somewhere on the order of 10% on their money for using it for a day. But it makes it so that you would have no money out of pocket and you could actually get money from close on all of that.
That was kind of the direction that I was hoping to go with it.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, yours is a situation where, that could potentially work, because the fact that his books can show a decent amount, the NOI is 64 grand. You're asking for the selling price is 640,000. So things are working. This RV park isn't completely in shambles. He just added 8 more pads. So there's a good story there to be like, hey, the numbers are getting better. It could qualify to make that all work. What I'm going to say with all of that is the best way to get that done, the stack method, the Morby method, is you have to have a whole slew of people that know what the heck they're doing in that transaction, right? The first is a lender that works with a seller carry on it and understands this whole thing and is okay with all of that. Because again, we don't want to operate in fraud in any way. So the lender that's there, having really a transaction coordinator, they're wonderful. They don't cost very much. They save the day for a lot of things. You still are going to have to look over them. Just like if you have property management, you can't just let it on autopilot. You got to look over your property managers and look into things, but they help out so that you can do a lot of other things at the same time. And especially if you've never done this before, it's nice to have them involved. Make sure the paperwork is all good and everything is signed. So having that transaction coordinator, you've got the transactional funder that gives you that money temporarily that's within all of that. And then you're going to have a second closer that happens, like an attorney. So depending on what state and everything, but there's going to be a first transaction that happens where the DSCR lender funds it. The transactional funder brings the money that's your down payment to everything, so that all works, and the seller gets their down payment of whatever that is. But there's an excess of funds that ends up happening. That excess of funds, the balance that the seller is getting from that, is going to go to that second transaction with that closing attorney. And then they're going to record that seller carry in a junior position, and they're going to end up dispersing funds back to you, and the transactional funder gets paid back, and everyone is made whole in that. It's a lot easier. I'm a visual person. So again, next time I'm going to hook up my iPad so I can draw and do some fun things like that. So it's a lot easier to see this whole magic happen, but it's also more fun to see it happen on your specific deal. So one of the things that I can do, Keith, is I can hook you up with those people that can do this stack method and everything, so that you can just walk through that literally with them to see who that is. And they'll show you. It's so nice when you see it in Excel. And your situation, you're not adding a lot of CapEx. In an acquisition that we're going through, there was a lot of CapEx that we wanted to do. And so it's sometimes harder to do that. The solution is you need to have that lender on the front end that will lend on the ARV and not just the as-is value of it. And that helps. Yeah, Erica, thanks for chiming in. Jay Holder is the best about that. What can you say about him and the whole situation? Love to have you on here.
In terms of Morby method, he's probably done more Morby methods than anybody in the entire sub-2 community. So he not only can evaluate it, he can give you the down and dirty. He's going to be honest with you. So if you bring him a deal and he's going to tell you, is this bankable? Is it not? What do you need to do? How do you need to structure it? So he can navigate that whole space for you. Because these are complicated to close. Let's just say that. And you need to have a TC that is extremely knowledgeable in it. And he is. So.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. So I've been communicating with and noticing a lot of these people online that will advertise stack method for this and that. And sometimes those people, what I've found is a lot of them are actually transactional funders, because they're the ones that are out to make a lot of money. You're either seeing the TCs that advertise it or the transactional funders that will advertise it. And by advertise, I mean just like go into groups and say, no money down, come here. We do transactional funding, double closing, stack method, Morby method, all these things. And they may or may not have the support team all around them to actually execute it. And a lot of these transactional funders will get essentially their bird dogs, people to go out and put those ads out into these spaces, and then they'll get a chunk of that 10% of the money that you're paying for the transactional funding. So it's good, quick money for these people, but you might not get that great hand holding or explanation, because I've seen it across the board. Some people that know what they're talking about, like Erica's talking with Jay Holder, and then some other people that are just winging it. And they're like, oh yeah, you can do it. Cool. Let me set this up here and there. And I start to ask them some nitty gritty questions. Nitty gritty. The one that comes to mind is like, do they fund RV parks? I mean, but like just some of the simple details. And they're like, ooh, I don't know. Or like, ooh, no. Or like, ooh, no. Oh, this, that. It's like, all right, no, let's find someone. So Erica, Jay has done RV parks. Do you know? Assume.
He's working with us. So yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So have you done a stack method with him, or?
We're working
on it?
We're working on it.
Do you want to share any of that without disclosing anything that would potentially harm you?
We got one in particular that we're negotiating on right now. And so, for example, this guy that's selling it, he's a seasoned investor. He gets it. He's willing to sell or finance a portion of it, and he's willing to go into second position on it. And so what we're looking at now is the constraints in terms of what he has it. So we're working what part of the park is, or because it's multiple assets. It's not just like, this isn't one of those standard rainbow parks that you get where it's just a park. So which part?
Those are standard and rainbow. I don't know those. I thought all RV parks are like
they're unicorns.
Unicorns
that
flies and swims and sometimes doesn't do that.
So it's what part of it is bankable, and that's the conversation we're having with Jay is which part of it is bankable, which part our lender is going to lend on, and does it have the revenue to support that bankable portion so that we can structure it to make sure that the bankable part will clear the banking, and then we'll also work then on the seller finance portion and negotiate those terms to look at the return. What do we get? And typically what happens in this is we can get, if there's enough meat on the bone, which will depend, guys, so you have to be realistic in this, is you can cover your closing costs and acquisition fees and anything like that when you do this method, but you have to be strategic about it. And that's why we're leveraging him, because he knows how to stack it and then he knows how to get it over the line as well with people that will lend on stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Yeah. And so what I've found with, and let me know if you're feeling the similar way, we had a lot of CapEx to add onto one, and that was not making it work at all.
It will not work when you add
just,
CapEx.
No, it's not enough. Like, because they want to lend on like you said, the bankable portion of it we're calling it bankable, even though we're not going to a bank, but like it's a lender.
They have to have
They're
confidence
analyzing.
they can land on an asset, right? Like there's other parks where if you don't own the land, it will not more be method, right? Because leased land options, that's not a good one. You have to have a portion of it that is bank approved.
Yeah.
Funding approved, more or less looser than the traditional banks.
Yeah, I only try and choose my wording now just because, we're talking about funding, and I did badmouth banks a little bit in the beginning. And it's just not badmouthing, just when to use them, where to use them, what they care about when they care.
They have a place and a time, and let's just be honest, RV park spaces, when we're acquiring them, a lot of times the RV parks don't have the financials to support going to a bank. And banks, if they are going to do it, they're going to charge us a high interest rate. And I see anything from 8 to 12%. So the first conversation I have is probably just like you, where I go in and I'm like, is it bankable with a traditional lender? And the seller's got this pie in the sky. And I'm like, it is not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always very different. And the very different comes out at some point during due diligence. Hopefully sooner than later. But yeah, it's always fun actually seeing their books. So yeah. So Glenn.
If you know somebody I believe Jordan is doing more restacks on his parks. So he might be a better resource too that has experience with it if you're looking for a speaker.
Jordan Reyes. Yeah. So maybe, yeah. I mean, I'm always looking to, and Erica, I appreciate you coming on here. Yeah. That's why I wanted to egg you on to come in.
I wrapped up my meeting early and I was like, oh, I got a few minutes between my next one. I'm going to pop in and see if they're still chatting because I appreciate the spaces that you create to share information.
Right on. Well, I appreciate you coming here and sharing all this too. Yeah, I love sharing with people, talking about all of this. But yeah, having more anecdotal evidence of things helps everything out, gives clarity, allows the who, not the how, and we can just charge forward. So yeah, I'll definitely, I literally have been talking with Jordan about things. Jordan and I are buddies, but it's just a matter of getting together, right? And figuring out, everyone's running in 1,000 directions. I don't know about you guys. Maybe it's just me.
No, it's us.
Running in 1,000 directions, loving it. And of course, we're doing this to have our fun time with whoever we want to be with. And so that also competes with things. Anyway, yeah, so great insight with all of that. Let's tease this a little farther. So Jay, when would you bring Jay on things, and what's the cost of him, I guess? Because I've seen a few different TCs. Do you know that offhand?
Let me see if I can pick my husband's brain because he's right here. Jason, did you hear that question? So if you're bringing Jay into a Morby, when's the best time to bring him into the Morby? We're bringing him in early because he's our partner with Jason on the TC side. So
yeah, we own Finish Line TC Services. But you should bring him in when you're structuring the deal because he can run all the scenarios to see is it bankable, and he's got a laundry list of investors that are willing to fund Morby methods because you're going to need somebody that's going to temporarily deposit the difference into escrow for that 24 hours until the bank drops in their money.
Yeah, that transactional funder. Absolutely.
Yeah. And of course, making sure you understand what that costs. And he's got a whole calculator that works really well. He's done it on businesses. He's done it on multifamily apartments. He's helping us structure for RV parks.
His thumb up is like causing the thumb up on that.
That's all right. Jason, you're just like happy today. I dig that. every day. So what's the typical cost of a TC? And is it an upfront cost? How's that work?
Because these are considered multifamily, and there's a lot of moving parts. We start about 2,400, and it goes up depending on how big the asset is. And it's usually 50% upfront and 50% at close of escrow. If it gets really big, we can work something out. But normally what happens is we like to be incentivized to close it as much as you do. So that's why we defer half of our fee to the end, because if it doesn't close, then we don't get paid either.
Yeah.
But because there's a ton of upfront work, we do take 50% down, and that is non-refundable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'm going to say that's industry standard that's out there, right? I've seen everything from, I've seen $500, $1,400. You're telling me $2,400 plus, depending, and $5,000 of these different transactional coordinators just to do this stack method specifically. Those are the ones that come to mind because I've just been talking to so many different lenders lately, getting ready for all this fun. I love the money space, the problem to solve it. So yeah, so it sounds like you guys are very reasonable and everything. I think that's a wonderful resource. Yeah, if you want to drop any contact information in here for that so that people could get in touch with him, I will share that with the group. Super cool.
You can this website, you can go and you can book a call directly with Jay. But you'll also see me on there. Jennifer Cortez is on there, and January Batten. We're all experiencing creative real estate. I think we did 80 million in transactions last year, just helping investors acquire creatively. And again, not just RV parks, but multifamily, single family, businesses, vehicles. We've done it all, even RVs. So if you guys are looking for park models and you want to know how to send them over to your park, we can help you with that.
See, and I love it. Yeah, the creative space is definitely where I get all excited. The boring, bring lots of money to close, get lots of investors behind that. That feels like work to me and all of that. So, Yoel, you mentioned that Stone Bank is a specialized RV bank. I want to tease that out. And thank you, Jason. Appreciate you, man, all the time. Hey there, Yoel.
Hi, I'm just on my phone. I'm having issues. Yes, Stone Bank is in Arkansas, and my project is in Alaska, and they love my project, but they specialize in RV and hospitality, but especially RV lending. I know the manager, the president of the bank himself, but it's not a big bank. It's a small bank, but they have a big history because they specialize in this. And if you want, I can send you his information. They're very, as I say, that's their specialty. So they also are backed with SBA and USDA loans, but they're lenient in for RVs.
Okay. Well, great. Yeah, I was just checking. I was talking with someone earlier that specializes in RV parks and outdoor hospitality, and I'm like, that sounds familiar. But it was another bank, Live Oak Bank, versus Stone Bank. Okay.
I'll send the information to Rhonda, and you can speak to them. You can speak to him. The president, he's very, very nice man, Vinny Mortoro, and he's very approachable, and that's just their niche. He loves that niche.
Cool. But it does have the word bank in their name, though. So I don't know that they're going to be buddies.
I know it has the bank.
Yeah, it does.
But there was, and it's very important that you, just like what you said about the whole hand-holding thing, because I'm 5 years into my project, and I've learned, oh my God, I don't have enough time to tell you about it, but I do know, I hear all what you're talking about, creative financing and that sort of thing. But one of the main things for me that I found out was the difference between a 506C and B structure, offering structure. And I thought I was in compliance using the 506B, but then I found out only a few weeks ago that I was not. And I was just like thrown.
Oh.
But again, I was connected to a very excellent CC attorney who is also a real estate attorney. So you don't have one thing, another one per, you have everything wrapped up in one. And so I'm also restructuring the organization for asset protection because my project is a major unicorn in Alaska. And I'm going to be having thousands of people coming through. And, I'm thinking about liability and all of that. So I have to protect my investors as well as a project. So I'm doing a lot of underpinning right now. I found that it was really important to be doing the underpinning to move forward. So it's one thing you say, let's go get the money, but it's how how you're going to protect the investors. And we think of the outcome, the pro forma looks great and the money looks great, but what's the in-between stage? And that's really important. So I'm really demonstrating that as well, with much more clarity. And so I'm taking the time to do that. So it's not easy. It's all well and good to hire someone to do those things for you, but I found that it's much more powerful when you have to painstakingly take the time to do it and learn it the first time.
If you're going to be the operator for this, you've got to learn it. Even if someone else is doing it with you, you got to learn it with them. You got to at least have a working knowledge of things, that vocabulary, because the buck stops with you. And so it's your responsibility at the end of the day. And then to those investors. And they're always looking for downside protection. Don't tell me how good it's going to be. Tell me how bad it can get. That's what, as an investor, that's what they want to know. Don't glamour me with numbers. Tell me, how bad is it going to get? When is it going to get bad? What does that mean? How is my money secured? What happens? Is there capital calls? Do I lose my money altogether? Those are the things of having conversations, and structuring it right, Yoel, is exactly what's needed. Just protecting in as many ways as possible. Let's put yourself in the shoes of that passive investor and ask yourself, how am I going to be protected? How can you protect them? And it's important.
I actually, the investors, it's the more sophisticated investors are the ones that are really asking those questions.
Because they're smart enough to know, and they've probably been burnt in the past before. I don't want to say dummies, but it's the ones that don't have experience doing it. They're like, oh, this sounds so great. I don't want to put my money in the bank. I don't want to risk the stock market. I want to put it with this individual. And then they know that they don't find out, that the team doesn't have the experience that's needed. The team, made things look a lot rosier than things really are. It's not, there's so many things that could go wrong with it. They don't have experience doing this, that, the other, whatever. And that's where there's great questions. Shucks. I mean, that's one of the things that we could drop for everyone. And I know a lot of us are active investors in here. I'm sure there's some passive investors that are listening on the podcast, but just dropping something for, hey, here's a list of all the questions that you should be asking as a passive investor. These are the questions you should ask of the GPs, the operators. And it's your due diligence that you're doing of the operators. And those seasoned investors, Yoel, they know it. They feel it. They can rattle those questions off. But it's the people that are just getting into it. They're like, I want to get into this asset class. I've got $50,000, $100,000. Maybe they're not even accredited, for your B. They don't have to be accredited for that. So, or even heaven forbid, friends and family, they're just trusting you because they know you. I'm going to say for the most part, that's a generalization. Could be knowledgeable investors as well. Having a list of those questions, just like a due diligence list, that's really helpful. And that's something that you should answer yourself to your investors. So I'm writing that down. I know that we have this list that's here. So a due diligence list for passive investors.
the first question that anybody should, as an investor or a broker, because I've had people like, I know such and such, I can find investors for you, blah blah blah. But no one, after all these years, no one but this one this one person
You're very passionate.
weeks ago. I know, no, because I was so thrown. Okay. Because you don't know what you don't know. So you don't even know the right questions to ask and how to phrase it. Because honestly, it's like, well, we can't really talk about it because it's the legal. I'm like, my God, talk about it. Talk about what you can and cannot do with a 50B versus a C. And I just totally blew it because
I'm sorry to hear that too. Yeah.
Well, no, but this lawyer, he's like really cool, and he's like, no problem. We're just going to, those investors that you got before are the friends and family, right? So we'll just go and classify them as the B and then move forward with the C, right? So it's getting done. No, you don't have to worry about, it's getting done. But it was a learning experience for me. And those brokers never asked one time. And I'm wondering, do they even know? Do they even know themselves what the difference is to ask you that question? Because in truth, they should never be brokering any deal. Not shouldn't. They can't be brokering legally any deal that's not a 506C.
Correct. Right. And I'm going to get into capital raising in a different one of these master classes because, yeah, you're not alone in it's confusing the first time around and all of that. I only briefly mentioned some of that because that's an easy way of pooling money together. And maybe a 506 route isn't the easy way. But I mean, pooling money together of friends and family, syndications, and equity participation loans, anything like that. It's a way of getting your capital stack solved without using your own money, which I always like doing. So it's good, but yeah, we definitely need to get into that when it's the capital raising side of things. So thank you for all of that. I want to touch on some of these other comments. So Erica, you dropped that you've got Old Capital. They're a broker. They're a broker at the end of the day. They know lots of different sources of money.
Yeah, I have a resource there. I'm testing her right now, so it's brand new to me. And I've been sending her RV parks for financing, and she's been able to find it. So they do work with SBA and a variety of people. So sometimes that's a way to go to hit a splattering.
Yeah. I love the shotgun, the splattering, all of that. Yeah, that's great. And then Keith, you were asking about all of those are they more traditional DSCR lenders? That Live Oak Bank, they are a bank. I mean, they'll do an SBA, but when I ask them how long it takes, for an SBA 7A, when you ask them how long it takes, they'll either tell you like 30 days, which is really 45 to 60 days, or they're going to say like 60 to 90 days, and that means 6 months. So let me just decode some of this because that's literally how it means. But I love when some of these brokers or whatever, they'll say it's 45 days, but it's truly 45 days because it's like 30 days from when you get us all the paperwork, so it turns into 45 days. In that. But you can tell when someone's on the short term of it or the long term of it, whether they have control over the decision making of the board to get the answer for are you funded and what level. It's not just are you funded, it's like what level your loan to value, your loan to cost that they're going to give you, because it's on a spectrum. Pretty much like whatever your credit score is, they're going to give you a different package, a different interest rate, a different loan to value. They're going to look at the whole comprehensive nature of what you got going on in order to do this, and the park itself. But yeah, all those are fun, but man, I still think SBA, like those are slow. Lots of things got to be in like smoothed out and in the works for that. Really like the stack method. I mean, that's got my attention the most when it's like you can get all the money that you need. I like the solutions that you get all the money plus, like Erica was saying, you get your acquisition costs, your acquisition fees, all of those, so you can make money. My motto has always been that my bank account gets bigger when I acquire real estate. You guys can share this too. It's not just an affirmation, it's a reality that can happen that's out there. Your bank account can get bigger when you purchase real estate. It doesn't have to get smaller and all of that. So yeah, Appreciate everyone involved with that. So we're wrapping up here. We only got like 5 minutes left with this. So I just want to pull this to an end. I think we really talked about a bunch of different subject matter within funding solutions for your RV parks that are out here. I hope you understand, working from the end and working backwards, the difference between banks and how everyone always says banking, but just lenders that are out there, banks versus the front end of things, where these DSCR lenders, these hard money lenders, these stack lenders, these are more in line with us as a value add real estate investor. And then we can go to those traditional people that there's no ambiguity about our finances for our buy and hold at the end. And so just prepare for that. You want to have at least 1 year of great books at the end for that, and then you're good. So you just line everything up to what you're doing here in the beginning. And then, all right, like we mentioned with Keith on this, if you don't have the money for it, or frankly, let's pick on me, if I don't want to use my own money, if I want to extend the opportunity to other people to make passive returns on their money, then you can do that. And you can do that in a bunch of different ways, pulling them in either with debt or with equity and with, well, I don't even want to rattle off all the different ways of pooling money, because that's going to be a whole other segment about capital raising. Just, it'll be some technicality, and then we'll have like live action of what we're doing. However, if this was just way too much information for you as a passive or as an active investor trying to figure out all of that, you're just scratching the surface if you're trying to get into RV parks. This is just the beginning. This is where I would say to start, because if you can't get this part solved, what's the point of doing anything else if you're looking to own it at the end of the day? So there is a lot. And if all this ends up being too much for you, well, then maybe active investing isn't for you. Maybe you should hop on and become a private investor for someone else that doesn't mind actively doing all this stuff, not only just figuring out, but then living it, breathing it for the years, forever that it takes while things are doing. So if you want to be a passive investor, anyone that you see here on our panel that is actively talking about stuff, I'm sure they'd love to talk to you about placing your funds and giving you a nice, consistent return for your money. Lots of tax benefits in RV parks too. Holy smokes. And if you're looking to invest with us, you can go to maverickasherinvestments.com. We'll drop a link in the podcast below so you can check that out. Lots of opportunities in there for you. If you're an active investor and you want to have your questions answered about things, you want to either consult with myself or one of my business partners, Kevin Jones on here, you can go to rvparkconsultant.com. Wealth of knowledge. We love helping people out. And you can just book a call with us there, and we'll really dive in and give you some one-on-one attention. All right, good stuff. So everyone here, again, you're going to be on the Invest In podcast. Check it out. I'm going to drop that here in the text for whatever reason. It's all about investments and RV parks and mindset. Because mindset is everything. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And there's a lot to do. And I'm always looking to improve as a business owner, as a leader, as a CEO, as a father, as a husband, as a friend, and as a son. So how many ways can we improve ourselves in life? I'm always looking to inspire others to do that too and challenge me. So super, super fun stuff. Appreciate everyone today on this call. Keith, you're going to go and get that park, man. I'm going to tell you what, you're going to get that park. If you have any other questions about it, drop it in the Facebook group that we have. We can continue this conversation and bring it to the meetup or all those things. But I want you to go get that park. Yoel, I want to go and travel to your park. All right, up in Alaska, I'm going to be there. My little boys are going to be there. We haven't seen the Northern Lights in person, so
I'm going to definitely connect with you because I'm like that close to starting construction. I have all my permits and everything. Once I get this little thing done, we're literally I have to talk to you. So we'll talk. And I'll have a beautiful viewing deck for the Northern Lights. I have the best view of Mount Denali in the state, honestly. I've been sending Rhonda, talk to Rhonda. I know.
Come on.
So
Yeah, I'm excited. That's why we do this. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love RV parks is just I love seeing the world and just experiencing all these things in nature. It's so powerful. Teaching my little boys everything about everything, because that's what you got to learn in life, right? Everything about everything. But yeah, I would love to head up there and do that. And so at some point, our annual meeting, everyone, we're going to get together in our meetup annually somewhere in person. And I don't know, Northern Lights sounds like a good possibility. I'll tell you that.
For sure. Like next year, fully opened, for sure. Art Denali. It'll be
Yeah.
for sure.
That sounds like
'Cause
fun.
the Northern Lights, you can actually see the Northern Lights from the 1st of August when it's dark enough all the way to the 1st of April. So you don't have to be in snow to see the Northern Lights is what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah.
you see
Mm.
them as long as it's dark, and it's beautiful up here. So I look forward to chatting and sharing, and yeah, for sure. The RV space is amazing.
Heck yeah, it is. And so if guys, anyone listening, you haven't gotten into the RV park space yet, just if nature resonates with you, traveling and all of that, check this space out, experience it. And if you want to be a passive investor, holy smokes, there's no better asset class in real estate than RV parks right now. So definitely it's a hot one. So find a good operator that has an offering that you can invest in, be a part of it. Maybe they'll let you stay at their fun RV park as a perk as well. Awesome. Everyone love that? Cool. Appreciate you guys. Have a great one. I'll see you at our next meetup. And in the meantime, go buy some RV parks. All
Thanks,
right.
Zach. Bye,
Take care.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Bye, buddy. Good to see you, Rhonda.
You too.
Bye.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Invest In podcast. I hope you picked up insights to fuel your investing journey. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave a rating and review. It helps more adventurers like you find us. For behind-the-scenes content and updates on our RV resort projects, follow @GoInvestIn on Instagram, LinkedIn, X, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Want to dive even deeper? Visit MaverickAsherInvestments.com for resources, and tune into next Thursday for another episode. Until then, keep investing, keep exploring, and I'll see you on the road.